And I'll be your captain. All aboard the boat. This is Graham Loring. Graham will be helping us during the trip. Before we start off, I'm required by law to give you a little bit of a safety lecture. I'm required to tell you that these orange things that are hanging here above your heads, those are your life preservers. Also, I'm required to tell you that this is a Coast Guard certified and inspected vessel and that I'm a licensed captain. Further, we need to talk about the orange ring on the bulkhead here in the center of the boat. That is a life ring. It's put there for the unlikely event that any of your teachers might be jumping overboard during this trip. Teachers, at this time of year, they realize they've got a long way to go before the year's over, and they aren't the most stable bunch. But if one of them would jump overboard for whatever reason, and you would witness this, you would be required by law to do three things. You would first have to yell, "Man overboard," whether it might be a man, a woman, child, or a dog that jumped into the water. You'd have to yell, "Man overboard." We'll sort the gender out later on. The second thing that you'd be required to do, if someone went into the water, you'd be required to inform the crew, either Graham or myself, that someone left the boat during the trip. The third thing, you'd be required to unbracket that orange ring, the life ring, and the small strobe light that hangs above it, and throw that at whoever went into the water. Now, I have never lost anyone on a boat that I've run, and I do... Does anybody on the boat know what this is I'm holding in my hand? A what? It's a death mask. You ride this boat last year? Looks a little bit like your daddy. Your daddy ain't this ugly. All right, now this is a real death mask. And let me explain to you what a death mask is. A long time ago, before good photography came around, when someone would die, the family very often would take a plaster casting from the dead person's face, and they would make, from that plaster casting, they would pour plaster in that casting and come out with this likeness of the person who died. Now you'll notice if you look closely, the death mask has no eyes. The eyes are always left out of a death mask. It signifies dead. If the eyes were in the death mask, it'd be a likeness of a person who was alive. But you see these eyes are blank. No eyes in this thing. So this came from the face of a dead person. These death masks, if the person was hung, if the person was buried in a tomb, the death mask normally was hung above the entranceway to the tomb. We use this death mask during our ghost story cruises. We paint it with a chemical light stick and makes this thing shine. And then we hang it from up above in the darkness. This is a real death mask. Now at the end of the trip, as you get off the boat, I'll let everyone that gets off the boat who would like to, I'll let you touch this as you get off the boat. But remember, when you touch it, the dead won't wash off your hands. Now, the story I'd like to start off with is a story that is probably of all the stories we tell, it's probably the most famous of all the stories. It's a story about the gray man. Now, I don't know if you were old enough. Do y'all remember Hurricane Hugo? You remember the storm? You actually remember what happened during the storm? Hurricane Hugo, in South Carolina's coastal history has always either flourished or declined between the great hurricanes. That has always been our coastal heritage. Now, a long time ago, Pawleys Island was one of the earliest vacation beaches on the coast of South Carolina. Now, a long time ago, a storm hit South Carolina's coastline that absolutely devastated the coast. The storm hit in 1893. Now, this storm is still listed in our history books as being called the Mermaid Storm. Now, today we name our storms with people names, human names. Name them Hugo or Andrew or Hazel. They're named after people. But a long time ago, all of our hurricanes are named after events that took place. The hurricane that hit in 1893 that killed so many people in South Carolina's coastline was called the Mermaid Storm. And we'll talk about the Mermaid Storm a little bit later. But before the Mermaid Storm hit, there was a family staying on Pawleys Island from Columbia, and their name was Nesbitt. And we didn't have TVs back then. There were no any way that you had any warning that large storms were coming. And this family, and y'all gonna have to be quiet if you were gonna tell these stories. I want you all sitting down and being quiet, okay? I'll make you sit up there with Graham. Graham's not friendly like I am. Now, but the storm that hit here that was coming, it was a killer hurricane. And Pawleys Island was loaded with people. It was on August the 22nd. People were on Pawleys Island. It was filled with people. The storm had 170 mile an hour winds and very high tides. As the clouds darkened around Pawleys Island, a lot of people began to worry. And as the storm got closer, some people started leaving, but not a lot of people. Miss Nesbitt, who is the old grandmother that was the matriarch of the Nesbitt family, was out hanging laundry the morning before the storm hit. And she happened to look up, and down the beach she saw a tall man walking down the beach, and he was wearing a long gray coat. And she turned around and the man was gone. She went back about her business, but thought it was strange to see a man in a long gray coat on that muggy August morning. She went back to hanging her laundry. She looked up and the man was standing behind her. And she turned around and asked him what he wanted. And he said nothing. He just stared at her. She finally asked him if she needed anything. And he said, "No, ma'am." He said, "You need something." And she said, "What do I need?" She said, "You need to take your family and get off of the island. Get as far inland as you can get. A great storm is on the way. And a great loss of life will occur on Pawleys Island when the storm hits. And if you don't leave now, you and your family will be among the people who lose their lives during this storm." And she turned to put her laundry down and talk to the man further, and when she turned back around to talk to him, he had disappeared. He was gone. And what upset her not was the news about the storm, was that she looked down in the sand that the man had walked through to get to the clothesline where she was, and there were no footprints in the sand. She ran to the house and told her husband that they had to leave immediately and go back to Columbia. Now, her husband was getting ready to put out the net so they could catch some fish or something. He didn't want to leave, and he would have none of it. But this woman insisted. She packed all of their belongings that she could get, and she hooked. They had no automobiles on Pawleys Island, just had horses and buggies. and she hooked the horse up to the wagon and packed the children and the belongings into the wagon. And she told her husband he wanted to stay and he could stay by himself, but they were leaving. And her husband finally went with her. And they caught the last train. There's a little train. Went all the way across the South Causeway of Pawleys Island, and they caught the last train off of Pawleys Island that morning. They made it to King Street, and they had a cousin at King Street, and they stayed in his cousin's house. Now, that night, a large storm hit Pawleys Island. The Mermaid Storm made landfall. There were nearly 200 homes on Pawleys Island when that storm hit. The tide surge that accompanied that storm was close to being 30 feet high. Of all the homes on Pawleys Island, only 10 homes survived that storm, the Mermaid Storm. 200 people on Pawleys Island is said to have lost their lives during that storm. In South Carolina, that storm is estimated to have been responsible for 1,500 people dying. Now you have to understand there weren't many people living on the coast like there are now. So that represents a great loss of life. The next day after the storm, the Nesbitt family went back to Pawleys Island. Their house was still standing, left untouched, had no damage in the house. The clothes that Miss Nesbitt left on the line were dry. They were still on the clothesline. The food that they had left out on the tables was still sitting there. But all the houses around them, as far as they could see, had been destroyed. They were gone. Now, every major hurricane since, before each hurricane, somebody has seen the gray man. And the gray man always warns people away from the islands before a great storm. Now, if you see a gray man walking down the beach, don't be afraid of him. He's come to warn you. And you take that warning to heed and either find yourself a tall, strong tree or get an automobile and get away from the beach. Go to the highland. Now, married him, and she accepted. But she knew that she couldn't wear that ring on her finger like most people wear their ring. She took that ring off of her finger and she wore it around her neck on a ribbon so her brother would not see this ring. Now, Alice didn't tell anyone. That's her secret. A long time ago, people died in great numbers from a disease that they got from mosquitoes called malaria. Malaria was responsible for a great loss of life before the invention of a drug called quinine. And Alice, unfortunately, got this disease, malaria. Now, the old people had another name for malaria. They called malaria the black vomit because you get so sick, that's what happened to you. You'd throw up this ugly black fluid. And Alice came down with the black vomit. And she was sick, had a raging fever. Alice's brother knew she was dying, called the doctor. And they feared the worst for Alice. The doctor stayed with Alice and her brother all night long. In the middle of the night, the doctor got up to examine Alice, and he took her nightgown and just, because she was real hot, and just opened it up a little bit and found the ribbon around her neck with a ring on the ribbon. And he called her brother, and he said, "Do you know anything about this ribbon with the ring around, with the ring through the ribbon?" And her brother, when he saw that ring around Alice's neck on the ribbon, he went into an absolute rage. He knew Alice had lied to him, snuck out of the house and met this man. And he reached inside of his pocket and he pulled out his knife. He grabbed that ribbon and cut that ribbon from around Alice's neck and he took the ring off the ribbon and he threw it in the water in front of the house. He lived at Merle's Inlet on the creek, and he threw that ring as far as she could throw in the marsh. Now Alice, when she saw that what her brother had done, and she went into absolute hysterics. She started screaming and crying, and the doctor had to give her a shot, make her go back to bed. She went to sleep. Alice's brother and the doctor went downstairs after Alice had gone to sleep, sat on the front porch, watched a big thunderstorm roll in from the ocean. The lightning was popping out on the creek, and Alice's brother happened to look up. Out in the flashes of lightning, he saw a young woman standing out in the creek, walking in the mud. And he realized that that was his sister, Alice. He got his jacket and a lantern and ran out to the creek and said, "Alice, are you crazy? What are you doing walking out in this creek at night in the rain? You're on your deathbed anyway. Come on in the house." And Alice turned around and said, "I'm looking for my ring that you threw in the creek." And her brother said, "Forget the ring." And he picked Alice up and carried her inside the house. The brother and the doctor dried Alice off, put her back in bed, sat beside her bed all night long. Alice died during the night. Alice Flagg died at the age of 14 years old. According to the story of Alice, she died of a broken heart. Now, you don't know anything about broken hearts at this young age, but you will. But I want to tell you now, just so you'll know, and I want you all to remember this, I don't believe people die of broken hearts. It might make you want to die, but it won't kill you. You always remember that. You'll need to know that at some stage in your life. People don't die of broken hearts. But according to this story, Alice Flagg died of a broken heart. Now, the ghost story part of this story is that Alice Flagg is indeed buried in the cemetery where you'll go today. Now, according to this ghost story, if you take a ring, and I'm sure one of you teachers has a ring that you can put on top of Alice Flagg's cemetery, tombstone, and take a ring and put it on top of that tombstone, and if you walk around that grave backward 3 times, according to the legend, at the end of the 3rd trip around this tombstone, the ghost of Alice Flagg will rise up out of that grave and will walk over to the tombstone, will pick that ring up, will look at it, and if it's not her ring, she'll hand it back to you. Now, it's daytime. I don't know that Alice comes out in the daytime. Down, and if you'd like to touch this death mask, we'll let you do that. Watch your step now. Watch your step.
Was really
Well, Jordan,
I have a dog. I have a wish for a dog. Halloween. In the morning though, not at night. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
We really small.
Watch your step.
We have to go.
Step. Thank you. Watch your step now.
Then you get your bag. Oh.
Watch your step, darling.
I couldn't write this book.
Okay.
I'm reading my journal and it says, we are on our way to
Sure.
Georgetown. I see lots of cars. We went on the island cruise. Captain Richard told us ghost stories. Then we went to the park. Then we ate lunch, which we're going to do.
Great. Good job.
Now we know.
I want the coast. Gray man, Alice Black.
Good job.
We saw people fishing. They caught a big crab. We rode on the island queen. We are going to see Alice Black's grave.
Very good. Okay. It is Alice's ring. Hey, I want my ring. Saw a dead man's face. We rode on the island school. We rode in Oliver. Let me see. Yeah.
We rode in Miss Cafe.
Good.
We are going to We went on the island cruise. We heard about the Grannies and Alice Black. We saw a dog.
Making me hot.
We went to the park. We went on the boat.
Andrew!
What is this? Island Queen.
Nice picture.
We rode on the boat. It was. He told us ghosts. We are in the cars. We are going to Georgetown. I see a lot of signs. I see signs. I see cars. We rided on the boat. We know what to do if one of us drowned. We say man overboard. Our teacher's name Captain Richard. He told us his stories. We ate snacks. In the Hidden Temple. The Hidden Temple was a magic wishing well in the pirate's code. Finder would have to get through a maze. Adventurers went in and died. Outside went in and found them wishing themselves. Wishing them out. I'm reading this. Ooh, 45. Bang! And we're in bed. The end. 3 days of ocean journey. October the 12th. We went to the park. It was fun.
Good. Okay, Catherine.
Judy, if I call you, please listen to me, okay?
A little louder.
I have heard it's a good friend. Have not eaten much.
Okay, that's wonderful. Thank you. Carice, you want to read?
Can I read?
And you got to be real loud, okay? So I can hear you.
Carice Ghost Journey. We went to the park. We rode on the island train. He told us ghost stories. We got on the boat.
Very good.
Our first song is 13 Days of Halloween.
Okay.
On the first day of Halloween, a vulture in a dead tree. On the second day of Halloween, my children gave to me 2 kissing cats and a vulture in a dead tree. On the third day of Halloween, my children gave to me 3 black toads, 2 kissing cats, and a on the grave, walk around it backwards 3 times, and you might feel something. Around in here. Just do it. Do it. Put the ring on there. No, thank you. Put the ring on there. I'll do it.
Sarah, get
Let's
it.
get a girl to do it. I think Alice.
If you're real, go on, do it. All right, everybody take one more step back. Kristen Lighter. You want to do it?
Okay.
Remember what to do? You want to do it?
You just.
I'll do it. She might do it.
I know. Everybody be real quiet. Friends gonna walk around 3 times. Have a count as it goes around. Let's see. One. He's all the way around. That's good.
2. Close your eyes.
You don't have to close your eyes.
No, go.
Keep going on around. Go back to the word Alice.
3.
Okay, you can stop there. Everybody be real quiet.
Stop.
That's good.
3.
And close your eyes.
Remember what he told you to do. Captain Richard said be real quiet and you might feel something on your neck.
Wait, Ryan.
That was Rand, or maybe Alice made Rand do it.
Hey, let me try. I want to try.
Okay, we also have paper if some of the parents don't get with their children and their group. And if you want to do some rubbings with a crayon, do you have a piece of paper? Miss Taylor, does Miss Taylor have the paper?